It has been approximately 5 years since Harry and Meghan stepped back from the monarchy. 5 years! Yet the royal family and the so-called royal experts still think Harry is going back to that miserable institution. Their obsession with Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan continues to spiral into new levels of absurdity. One of the more recent absurd contributors to this obsession is Andrew Pierce.
Prince Harry, if you are coming back to Britain, do yourselves a favour and leave Meghan behind. Harry, we understand, is talking to old friends about how you can possibly make an at least partial return to Great Britain. Forget your friends, Harry. Call your father, the king. Call your brother, the future king, and apologise for the wicked things you said about both their wives. And if you do come back, here's some other advice. Do it under the radar, low profile. Another reason why, best leave your wife behind.
First of all, wow. Just wow. One cannot help but wonder what Pierce, or those like him, hope to achieve by advising Harry to abandon his family. Clearly, this is not just a personal attack on Harry's marriage. It is an attempt to undermine the very foundation of his happiness and his identity as a husband and father. Worse yet, Pierce's advice ignores the fact that Harry and Meghan are not just a couple, they are a family. What would Pierce have Harry do with Archie and Lilibet, his 2 children? Leave them behind as well, to fulfill some royal fantasy that Harry himself has said brings him no joy. It is clear that Pierce, like many of Harry's detractors, has little regard for the well-being of Harry's family. In fact, his suggestion shows an active desire to create misery for Harry, Meghan, and their children. This goes beyond the usual media speculation and crosses into the territory of malice. To wish unhappiness on a family that has already faced so much public scrutiny and vitriol is both cruel and irrational. Harry has made it abundantly clear that he values his wife and children above all else, and anyone who encourages him to abandon them for the sake of a strained relationship with his royal relatives is either deeply out of touch or purposefully vindictive. So why does Pierce and other detractors do this? After examining Pierce's other works, it becomes clear that his own personal history may be shaping his view of Harry's life. In an article he once wrote, titled, "I found my birth mother after 45 years. Then she rejected me all over again." Pierce recounts the pain of being rejected by his biological mother not once, but twice. It is a heartbreaking story, one that understandably left a deep emotional scar. However, what is troubling is how Pierce's personal experience seems to have warped his perspective on Harry's relationship with his family. Rather than wishing Harry the happiness and stability that Pierce himself was denied, he instead advises Harry to break apart his family and return to a toxic environment. This is Pierce's way of projecting his own unresolved pain onto Harry. After all, as the saying goes, misery loves company. And guess what? Pierce is not alone in his projections. Angela Levin, another so-called expert of Harry and Meghan, has similarly drawn from her own painful experiences to inform her attacks on Meghan. In an article titled, "My mother was a cruel and horrid woman. It's taken years to confront it," Levin opens up about her tumultuous relationship with her mother, describing her as abusive and emotionally detached. Again, it is a deeply sad and personal story. But like Pierce, Levin is always projecting her unresolved pain onto Meghan, painting her as the cruel and horrid figure in Harry's life. Levin has repeatedly pushed the narrative that Meghan is controlling Harry and driving a wedge between him and his family, despite all evidence to the contrary. In her eyes, Meghan becomes the villainous mother figure that Levin herself experienced, a convenient scapegoat for all of Harry's perceived mistakes. It is difficult to ignore the similarities between Pierce and Levin in their obsession with Harry and Meghan. Both are individuals who have experienced rejection and familial strife, and both are determined to see Harry's family fall apart. There is a disturbing irony in this. Two people who have suffered from broken families are now actively wishing that same fate upon Harry. It is as if they believe that because they never found happiness within their own families, Harry and Meghan should not be allowed to either. A social media user summed up this strange obsession perfectly, stating, "The mothers of both Angela Levin and Andrew Pierce rejected them. They also have a creepy obsession with Prince Harry and want him to abandon his family in the US and return to the UK to be the institutional scapegoat for that family." This succinctly captures the heart of the issue. Pierce and Levin, in their own misery and unresolved trauma, want to see Harry dragged back into the royal fold, not because they believe it would be good for him, but because they want him to share in their own unhappiness. They are incapable of understanding the joy that Harry has found with Meghan and their children, and so they seek to destroy it. Let's also address the sheer hypocrisy of their advice. These so-called royal experts continually harp on about family, duty, and responsibility, yet their advice to Harry is to do the most irresponsible thing imaginable: abandon his wife and children to grovel before a family that has never treated him with the love and respect he deserves. The Windsors themselves have hardly been paragons of familial warmth and support, as evidenced by the many emotional wounds Harry laid bare in Spare. So why should Harry apologise for speaking his truth? Why should he feel compelled to return to a family and an institution that has caused him and Meghan so much pain? In fact, if Pierce and Levin were being honest with themselves, they would acknowledge that the monarchy's treatment of Meghan, and, by extension, Harry, was unforgivable. Harry's decision to defend Meghan back in 2016 against the onslaught of racist and misogynistic attacks was an act of love, strength, and integrity, not an act of rebellion or disloyalty. His family's fury over his defense of Meghan, as he revealed in Spare, says more about their inability to stand up for their wives than it does about Harry's supposed wrongdoing. Harry chose to do what was right, even when it wasn't easy, and that is precisely why he is not going to bow to the likes of Pierce and Levin, who wish to see him grovel for forgiveness that he does not owe. Moreover, what Pierce and Levin fail to grasp is that Harry has moved on. He is not pining for the approval of a royal family that refused to protect him or his wife from the relentless media onslaught. He has built a new life, one in which he has autonomy, privacy, and, most importantly, love. He and Meghan are raising two beautiful children in a nurturing and supportive environment, far from the dysfunction that characterized Harry's own upbringing. Pierce and Levin's desperate attempts to pull him back into that toxicity reflect their own deep-seated need for chaos and misery, not any genuine concern for Harry's well-being. Ultimately, it is time for people like Andrew Pierce and Angela Levin to stop projecting their own misery onto Harry and Meghan. Their obsession with seeing Harry's family fall apart is not only unhealthy, but deeply disturbing. Harry has made it clear that his loyalty lies with his wife and children, and no amount of media pressure will change that. It is time for the British media to move on, to accept that Harry is happy where he is, and to stop wishing misery upon a family that has already been through enough. Thank you for watching.